Hey everybody, it's the top of the hour, meaning you've got 3 more minutes until 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk. No, we're not going to change the name to 603 Dad Rock Talk. Get yourself a snack, get yourself something to drink, get all comfy cozy, share the link with those you know that ain't already here. 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk will begin in about 2.5 minutes. Welcome to the Virtual Stab Comedy Theater. It's time for 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk. Please welcome to your screen, 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk.
Hey folks, welcome to the show. As Jesse Jones said, this is 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk. I am Corey Behringer, joined as always by my co-ghost. See what I did there? Court Hansen. How you doing, Court?
Scary!
The afterlife is terrible! You think you guys got it bad? I thought I'd go for sort of
it. I wish I was dead.
I was going for sort of an EC Comics Crypt Keeper like parody name. If you didn't pick up on that, were you ever like a? I don't even know if you were ever like really a comics guy, let alone EC Comics. Did you ever get into that?
In high school, I was a superhero comics guy, not a horror comics guy. But I do like the Crypt Keeper. I wrote I wrote a sketch in college where I was the Crypt Keeper. I forget what I was doing. I was giving some sort of speech. Maybe it was like a motivation. Oh, it was a Crypt Keeper TED Talk. It was a dead talk.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. That would be something that they would do if they brought it back.
Yeah. And I hurt my voice doing a Crypt Keeper thing. So, yeah, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with the tone of an EC comic.
Yeah. And the spooky
lots
fun.
Of goop.
That's really lots of goop.
And like an ironic twist.
Always have to have the ironic twist. That is inescapable. There has to be the thing that comes back around. But you know what? We're not here to talk about EC Comics, as much as I would love us to. We're actually here to talk about our favorite spooky dad rock jams. You and I have compiled a playlist each of just, perhaps novelty hits or just your classic rock standards that have sort of that creepy vibe, you know. I found in compiling my list, I intended to go into it doing more novelty hits, and I found myself kind of adding more just genuinely scary, like, rock songs, and not even just rock songs, but like, you know, just that sort of, I don't know, there's a vibe and intensity that I was always very drawn to, like as a child, and then especially in high school. Were you ever, because I know you're kind of a metal guy too, is scary music something you're drawn to?
Very much so. I like music that's upsetting to listen to, for sure.
Yes.
I like a lot of really, really harsh, like, black metal, and, you know, power violence, and all sorts of the, you know, really nitty gritty, annoying subgenres of metal and punk, where stuff gets just more abrasive than listenable. That's I find that stuff really interesting. Same with, like, industrial music. Throbbing Gristle is another, like, scary sounding band, but pretty unlistenable as well. It's hard to sell someone on it unless you're being like, hey, here's something that just, like, sounds like a nightmare.
So many of my favorite acts I described in that very way to friends trying to turn them onto it. I think where our tastes veer a little bit is I still really require melody. Like, I gotta have the melody. It's so important to me. But everything around it, I love it to be as dreadful as possible. And we'll get into some of those on my list that, like, it just, as you said, like, sounds like a nightmare, you know? I think I didn't put any on here, but, like, Blixa Bargeld comes to mind. And that kind of goes into sort of the industrial. Well, he's the artist Blixa Bargeld, who is in, and still is in, I always butcher their name. And Seth Draven, if he's watching, will be very disappointed in me. Like Esteban Neubauten. They're yeah. They're a band that I can't pronounce either, but I have listened to them. Never have. But I became aware of him through the Bad Seeds. When Bad Seeds started, he joined because of his reputation in his main project as just being horrifying, like just a truly terrifying presence. So that's always the stuff I was drawn to. Everything we've come around to just stay there. With that, let's just jump right into the show. For those of you who haven't seen the show before, Court and I don't know what's going to be coming up next. It's all VJ'd, if you will, by Jesse Jones back at the Stab Comedy Theater. So Jesse, please play the first song.
So that is Rose McDowell's cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper," originally by Blue Oyster Cult, which we've talked about before on our movie and TV ones. That's one of my favorite songs already because it's like a song about suicide, so it's very spooky. That it's spooky to think about people writing about stuff like that in the past. Does that kind of make sense? Like anything like super dark like that, when it shows up in things from the past, it feels extra dark because it's like, damn, if back then people thought to record it, it must have been pretty bad. But
absolutely,
Rose
I feel the same way every time that we watch. Like, I just want to say, I totally agree there because like I'm thinking of like old cartoons and how macabre those were, and like just how terrifying something like Cab Calloway could be. Sorry to interrupt there, but you just like that totally hit home.
Yeah. So Rose McDowall, she was in a like pop duo in the 80s called Strawberry Switchblade. And their thing, as their name implies, was that they did like very bubbly like 80s pop, but they looked like, you know, straight up goth chicks, or even sometimes like scene girls, like 2007 era scene girls, which it's pretty also weird to see that back in the 80s, just the exact same look that got popular again 20 years later. But she recorded that song as part of the planned follow-up to the first and only Strawberry Switchblade album. But then, and I don't want to speak too much to her personal life because she doesn't go too much into it, but the group wasn't able to continue, and she had some sorts of gloominess issues. And it wasn't until like a couple of years ago that Sacred Bones, that awesome label that puts out all the post-punk stuff, they put out the full album of the like stuff that was being done in preparation for that second album. And so it's more or less her doing solo stuff. And it's just like spooky, gloomy 80s pop that I really like. She later went on to do like guest work with groups like Current 93, a lot of bands in the politically kind of sketchy neo-folk scene. But that's a conversation for another day. Her contributions are all very lovely because she has a nice voice. And she looks like a witch still. She wears like a pointy witch hat. She's very into just like traditional spooky witch look. She's got a nice Scottish accent. It's Rose McDowall. Look her up if you want to find like if you want a scarier Cyndi Lauper.
That's a good way to put it, because like that's kind of the vibe I got when I first heard the band, which was like just maybe 2 months ago. I listened to them for the first time.
Strawberry Switchblade?
Yeah, it's the Strawberry Switchblade. Oh. And I liked it. I don't know if I'd go back to the whole album a whole lot, you know, in general, but they had, what was their famous, like they had a hit cover. I forget what it was. Yeah. They had some. That was kind of their only big hit, like internationally, was a cover.
Yeah, I can't remember right now.
That was pretty cool, actually. Like it was, they really like changed it up from whatever it was. As interesting as that, I'm sure sounds. But yeah, that was very cool. I want to look into more of that kind of solo stuff too.
Because there was a lot of people in the '80s doing like the gloomy, gothy stuff, but I don't think very many of them were genuinely kind of sad and disturbed people. I think some of them it was more of like an aesthetic choice. And I think that her music, even when it's kind of more mainstream and poppy, it still has that kind of real melancholy to it, and it's very good.
Yeah. And I think especially on the song that I couldn't remember earlier, their cover of Jolene. They make it very, very sad girl. That's the sort of hit that they had, was Jolene. And then their original hit, Since Yesterday. That was the other kind of big one. Right on. Let's hear another.
Joan was quizzical, studied metaphysical science in the home. Late nights all alone with a test tube. Maxwell Edison, majoring in medicine, calls her on the phone. Can I take you out to the pictures, Joan? But as she's getting ready to go, a knock comes on the door. Bang, bang, Maxwell silver hammer came down upon her head. Bang, bang, Maxwell silver hammer made sure that she was dead. The fool again, teacher gets annoyed.
that was the Beatles with Maxwell's Silver Hammer. In my opinion, maybe the scariest Beatles song to my, sort of taste. This song had a pretty profound effect on me when I first heard it. I think I was maybe 7 when my parents bought me Abbey Road cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go on these long drives, and all of us, the year prior, me and my 2 other brothers, were all gifted Walkmen. So we would go on these long drives, and everyone would just be plugged into their own thing. So
I thought you were saying that they were gifted, like, oh yeah, they're Walkmen. They're very gifted at walking.
What a strange title.
Yeah, they were gifted Walkmen.
Such as my father
anyway,
before me.
Go on. Maxwell Silverhand.
But yes, so on these long trips are when I really developed a love and eventual obsession with the Beatles. But it was this song that, hearing it as a little kid, regardless of the fact that I was given this tape by my parents, when I heard this song, I had this scary, sort of dangerous feeling of am I allowed to be listening to this? Do they know that song is on here? Because it was so, just explicitly murder. It's
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't, if a kid could have known exactly what the song was about, I don't know, it really kind of shook me, but also had this fascinating draw. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the infectious melody, but also the textures, that steel guitar, makes
Mm-hmm.
the song different. When that slides in, and all through the album, frankly, all the country licks throughout Abbey Road are so spectacular. But on this song, it's just so spooky. This is the spookiest damn song. What was your? I'm curious. Whenever it comes to these sort of milestone, all quotes, important albums, what was your kind of first impression with Abbey Road, and how old were you with it?
Want to know something very, very, very weird about me? My Beatles knowledge is almost, other than some biographical stuff, as far as songs go, my knowledge is pretty limited to the first several albums and then the hits afterwards. But
Okay.
Album era Beatles, I have not dove into that much. So personally, I don't have that much distinction in my head between Abbey Road and other albums of theirs from that period. It's
That
just
makes sense.
always, I don't know what it is. It's just always been a blank spot. Maybe I felt maybe I had a little bit of a Mark David Chapman moment where I was mad at how the Beatles matured. I could, as a kid, wrap my head around pretty much everything up to and including Yellow Submarine, although I didn't really understand that either.
Yeah.
But it was, anyway.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I was annoyed that the Beatles did not continue to sound like what I thought the Beatles sounded like, and that just stuck with me as a kid. And so a lot of their classics from the latter half of their career, I've always kept kind of at a distance because of that initial impression of not liking the weird new direction, and they're all beardy and psychedelic and scary looking. And so it's just a thing that had an impact on me as a kid. And even though I didn't find it scary so much, it was more just I don't know, it something about it seemed too weird for me. And I still haven't really done my fair dues as a classic rock person to actually understand the Beatles' growth as a band.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
I kind of have the opposite of maybe when. There's a hint here.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe when we can do a show that's Birds v Beatles, and we can go deep into our respective understandings.
I'd be
of
a
them.
poor guest on that. To be honest, I think I'd be kind of poor at that, because I was just about to say I have kind of the opposite with the Beatles, where my introduction to them was Help and on, the movie Help, and then the soundtrack, and then stuff kind of after that. And pretty quickly, anytime I would hear early Beatles, I wouldn't like it. I didn't really care for, kind of Love Me Do, I Want to Hold Your Hand, like the really bubblegum kind of pop Beatles. Never really did it for me. I really liked the more substance stuff. You know, before I even knew a word for it, like I liked the more experimental and like, you know, Eastern influence stuff. And yeah, I don't know, and a lot more country influence later on too.
Yeah. And I had a similar experience when I listened to Pet Sounds for the first time, where it's like, this isn't like they're not singing about beaches and stuff. But I came back to that in a way that I never did with the Beatles, where like I came back to Pet Sounds when I was like 23, which is the perfect age for that. But I never found that emotional connection with the Beatles as a more mature person, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, because I'm frankly right there with you. Like, if I strip away all the nostalgia layers and even the layers that just appreciate it for good music, which I do, I actually don't feel like I have that much of an emotional connection with the Beatles. Like, that was something I kind of came to terms with in my early 20s, having had my practically entire life up to that point being somewhat defined by my musical taste. And with that was the Beatles. Like, it was so important. But then, like, you know, really examining what this music means to me, it didn't really mean a whole lot. Apart from, I like these songs. They're good. You know?
Right.
Like, they didn't carry the same emotional weight that I had attached to, say, Pink Floyd. Like, that had emotional weight. The Beatles, not so much.
It's weird. I think that maybe people are... Is there some sort of middle ground between being too cool for the Beatles and, like, absolutely worshiping them? Because...
I think that's frankly where most people lie, whether or not they'd admit it. Like, they're just a great band. They're a great band, but they're not gods. They aren't infallible beings.
And it seems like for people to, like, limit their understanding of the scope of that time period in music is a little bit of a disservice to them. Like, it's better to put the Beatles in the context of the other bands that were inspired by them and that were inspiring them, than to just focus out on them as like the end all be all like rock entity.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Well, let's hear another song.
It's Dream Warriors. It's Dream Warriors by Dokken.
I remember that.
Yeah, from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. There's a lot of great cheesy metal songs written for and in conjunction with slasher movies. This one's just one of the silliest, I think. Not too much to say about it, really, other than that it has a good music video, and it ends with Freddy Krueger waking up, the music video having been a dream, and he's scared of Dokken. He's like, oh, who are those guys?
I remember that now.
The implication that any of the, like, really poppy, like, kind of hair metal-y bands that were so popular in the 80s, the idea that any of them would scare Freddy Krueger is really great. Yeah. Because
I think it'd be amazing if exactly. I think Wes Craven should come out and declare that music video canon. Just like that happened.
That would be pretty scary
I know,
in its own right.
Yeah.
Because he's not alive anymore.
Oh yeah, he's dead, isn't he? I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, great. Now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad.
Yeah. Now he's gonna come back for us in our dreams. Wes Craven will, and he's gonna haunt us with visions of Cursed, starring Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg.
I actually like Dokken a little bit, like because my mom liked Dokken, so that would be like a car listen every now and then.
Oh yeah.
It probably had like, I remember there was a tape of like their main album. Like I forget what it was called. It might have even just been self-titled, maybe just Dokken, the album. But yeah, not so much that I really got into them later, but I have fond memories of Dokken. This song, it almost disappointed me because it starts really intriguing. Like that,
Yeah.
I like that low tom. I'm a sucker for like a kind of almost tribal beat when that is doing its thing. And then the singing starts, and just there's no power
man,
here
they're just
at all. No power.
Yep. No. But fun.
Anyway,
It's
enough
still very
Dokken
fun.
shit talking. Oh, that'd be a great show. Shit talking Dokken.
I'll get Chris Hardwick on the phone.
Yeah. He needs work. Let's hear another.
Doesn't mind a bit of dirt. She says horror vampire bites. She says horror vampire. How I wish those bites would bite. 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 Release the master. Release the master.
That was The Birthday Party with Release the Bats. Probably their most, like, the closest to a hit, maybe, that the Birthday Party
it's tough
had.
to have a hit when you're a band like that.
Yeah, exactly. I had some others that kind of came close. But, yeah, this is a great song. This was, like, the first Birthday Party song I heard in high school. And, I don't know, like, there's really nothing else like that band. This... I love when a band can self-parody, and they do it really well. Because this was pretty much, I don't know, many would argue against what I'm about to say. I'm sure people who know what they're talking about. But from my interpretation, it's sort of like peak goth, sort of, punk. And so it kind of came to a boiling point where this song became necessary to, like... they used just every buzzword of the sort of goth rock scene in it, including my favorite line in it, which I will quote thanks to the wiki page. Sex, horror, sex, bat, sex, horror, sex, vampire, sex, bat, horror, vampire, sex. That is one line that he says in the song.
Oh man, if you say that 3 times in front of a mirror, then sex, horror, bat, sex, horror, vampire, blood, sex, ghost will come get you.
Yeah, and you know what? You deserve it at that point. But yeah, this is a cool song though. Great live. You could find a lot of really good live cuts on YouTube of it because that's like an experience. Is the Birthday Party? So.
Did they ever do any sort of reunion or anything? Was there
no,
ever a second
not
iteration
really.
After they kind of broke up? Because I only started listening to them within like the last year or so when I started getting more into post-punk stuff.
Yeah.
I had heard of them, but I didn't know that they were associated with Nick Cave at all. And so once I realized that, I was like, dang, I got to hear that.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool how it all progressed, because it's not so much like it was even like necessarily his band before the Bad Seeds, but like everything was just sort of a steady evolution of what he was doing. So like before the birthday party, it was the Boys Next Door, and like that's basically the same band, just slightly different. And then it's I think he's stated about the birthday party that like it was in many ways more of like a like an art piece, like a performance piece. So like that couldn't continue. Like it had to exist to get you to the Bad Seeds, but there's no way that you could just keep doing the birthday party, because what it was had its kind of end point,
right?
And I mean, I think the closest you could say that he did in terms of returning to that would be Grinder Man, which I don't know if you listened to any Grinder Man, but
not too much.
That's the closest I would say, because the sort of mission statement or thesis of Grinder Man is just this sort of raw brutality and masculinity, and in a very critical way. Like not so much praising it, but just like bare bones. This is what it is to be a flawed man, and it's filthy, filthy music, which I recommend. Grinder Man is very, very cool. But as far as a reunion, no, it wasn't necessary, because
got it.
Once he got that out of his system, it was like, yeah, it's Bad Seeds all the way. Let's hear another.
So that is alternately titled Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, or The Elements, Fire, by the Beach Boys. That's from the aborted and since completed and then released album Smile, which Brian Wilson was working on. I mean, he was, it's when he had like a pretty significant mental breakdown trying to finish that album, and a part of that came from this song, which sounds very just unnerving. It sounds like a panic attack, especially when it starts to pick up with those heavy drums and stuff. But what's more, he became very like obsessed with this song on like an occult level, where he was having the people in the studio who were making all these scary noises. He was like lighting fires in the trash cans so that it would smell like smoke. And if you've ever seen the photos of him and the people playing and they're all wearing fire hats, that's when that was from. But then while they were working on that song, a warehouse down the street caught fire and burned down. And because of where his brain was at the time, which is not in a good place, he became convinced that the song itself like caused the fire. And so that's part of what made him put everything away and not finish Smile for, like 40 years, because that experience just, it just freaked him out too much. And then later on in like 2003, 2004, when he was going back and re-recording this stuff with his new band, they were getting ready to rehearse that song before Brian like got to the studio. and then like they get started and immediately the power goes out, and they're like, oh shit, we can't do this. This is going to happen again, and Brian's going to back out. We're not going to be able to finish it. But then they ended up getting through it, and he completed it, which is nice. But man, it's a scary song. It just gets even eerier as it goes on, because there's like a vocal part without any lyrics that comes in, and there's a kind of simplified version of it on their album Smiley Smile called Woody Woodpecker Symphony that sounds a lot more like, as you can imagine, woodland, and like kind of like you're walking through a dark, scary forest. And that
Not
one's
better.
also, it's also very eerie in its own right, but it's all, it's just kind of a one organ and then some like wood blocks and stuff, but just creepy music that I don't think people would have appreciated when it had it come out in 67 as planned. 68. Man, I can't remember my dates right now.
Did people really appreciate it when it did come out? Because I had the impression that Smile kind of was met with almost like a anti-climax, like, because it had so much built up around it that when it came out, people were like, it's fine.
Well, it got like standing ovations at its initial performances and stuff. It was pretty critically acclaimed, and it won a Grammy, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the issue is with Smile is that it's like 90% of an album, and there's just, in a couple key spots, there's not a connective tissue where there needs to be, and so the songs don't quite flow as they were intended to. But from what they've salvaged from it, it's still pretty exciting going back and listening to it, even though I've heard it a million times now.
I gotta hear it, because I've never actually listened to it.
Because there's the Brian Wilson Presents Smile, which is him and his new band, and then in 2011 they released the Smile Sessions box set, which has pretty much the recreated album plus a bunch of outtakes from the recording of it, so you get to hear like studio chatter while they were making this stuff.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, and those sessions box sets are pretty good because they follow the songs chronologically a lot of the time, so you can hear them kind of get built up from the initial tracking to like overdubs to vocals to the finished product.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's hear another.
Remember when you ran away and I got on my knees and begged you not to leave because I'd go berserk? Well, you left me anyhow, and then the days got worse and worse, and now you see I've gone completely out of my mind. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time, and I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats, and they're coming to take me away, ha-ha! You thought it was a joke, and so you laughed. You laughed when I had said that losing you would make me flip my lid. Right? You know you laughed. I heard you laugh. You laughed and then you left. But now you know I'm utterly mad. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile.
So an accidentally appropriate follow-up to the previous song. This is They're Coming to Take Me Away, haha, by Napoleon the 14th. The stage, not even stage name, the studio name of Jerry Samuels. This was a novelty hit in 1966. I first heard it through, as most people, Dr. Demento, like as a kid. We had a lot of Dr. Demento tapes, and my parents would listen to the show and stuff. But yeah, this one always kind of hooked me for the obvious reasons that it almost has not a literal Tarantella beat, but like the same effect of a Tarantella, where it's just like that driving percussion. And it's very, unsettling. So Yeah.
It had been a while since I had listened to that because I also was introduced to it as a little kid, and it's just like a silly song with a funny voice.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize what a funny farm was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very dark song. It's actually quite dark. Yeah.
But it has kind of like a Nick Cave feel to it.
A little bit, yeah.
Like you could see that being one of his weird talk singy songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or maybe a closer analog would be like maybe Tom Waits. Like it has that very madcap, but dark, like so. Yeah, both those guys veer towards the darkness in a big way. I mean, I always just like this one. Worth mentioning, just out of fun fact, it had a bunch of sequel songs that aren't very good. I've listened to those.
Oh yeah.
And he put out an album with that song as well as others on it that all kind of had the theme of insanity. My favorite factor in all of this, though, is the B-side of the record release of just the single of "They're Coming to Take Me Away." The B-side was the same song in reverse, and the title is just the title in reverse. It's nice. Completely unlistenable. It's just literally that song played backwards.
I love
nice
bits
touch.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No one's gonna listen to it, but you're gonna print it anyway. Like you're going to pay for vinyl to be pressed for this. I love that.
Monty Python.
Oh yeah.
Let's
talk about it.
Didn't they put out an album that was like purposefully not meant to fit with other records?
So what it was? Yeah, they did something really kind of innovative that no one has done since because it's also stupid.
And wasteful.
The way that they set up the grooves on it was if you were to drop the needle, and I could be getting this kind of mixed up.
Where they have the different spirals.
Spots, yeah, you could play practically a different record.
I think that there was another one that the packaging, they made it as difficult to fit on a shelf with other records as possible.
Oh yeah, yes, they did do that.
I
have a bunch of Python records. They were really clever about how to go about fulfilling their record contract. They were very good. In fact, one of them was literally called Contractually Obligated Fifth Album or something like that. And then, of course, my favorite Python cover was a classic cover of a Beethoven symphony recording that they just scrawled with a Sharpie a big X over and then scribbled another Python record and confused the hell out of their label because they're like, no, this is the record. This is what we want you to actually spend money to print. I love it. Let's hear another.
Thrown like a star in my vast sleep, I opened my eyes to take a peek, to find that I was by the sea, gazing with tranquility. Just then when the hurdy-gurdy man came singing songs of love, then when the hurdy-gurdy man came singing songs of love, hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy is sad. Hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy is sad. Hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy is sad. Histories of ages past, unenlightened shadows cast down through all.
That's the wonderful Donovan with Hurdy-Gurdy Man. I was thinking about including Season of the Witch as probably most spooky song, but I like this song a lot more because it's in the movie Zodiac, which is one of my favorite movies ever. Big influence on just my personality. if anyone who hasn't seen Zodiac but knows me,
seems incriminating to say that.
No. Just the overall tone of the movie, big influence on my personality. And if you know me and you haven't seen Zodiac, watch it. You'll like the movie if you like me, or at least you'll understand the movie if you like me. How familiar are you with Donovan?
Only a little bit. I've always loved Donovan, what little I heard. I mean, I hadn't heard this song since high school. That's probably the last time I kind of flirted with Donovan records and stuff. But every Donovan song I've ever heard, I really enjoyed. He's like one of those guys, you know.
So much atmosphere to his songs. It's he kind of got written off as kind of like a flowery relic of like Summer of Love stuff, but even before like psychedelia was full on in the mainstream, he was making pretty like eerie, kind of weird music that I just really enjoy. And you know, I don't think he's a particularly evil guy or anything, but he does seem to be able to set it just a unsettling kind of otherworldly mood.
I think in particular with the song we just heard, like in my opinion more so than Season of the Witch, which is on the surface a more, you know, explicitly spooky, you know, theme and stuff, but this song, I mean, with the sort of tremolo effect he has on the acoustic guitar, like it's immediately unsettling. Like it doesn't even, you know, bring you in slowly to a scary atmosphere. It barrages you like at the very top with like, this is a scary song. And I mean, I never really even knew what the song's about, other than a guy that plays a hurdy-gurdy. But I don't need to have a story because the song sounds so scary.
I don't think that the song is necessarily about this, but what the song makes me think of is you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a man with a hurdy-gurdy, and he's just like staring at you. He's not even playing it.
Horrifying.
Like that's the hurdy-gurdy man.
Ugh.
That's what the song makes me feel, even if it's not about that.
And now it's only going to make me feel that way.
Kind of like the guy with the organ thing in Ocarina of Time. Remember him? Yeah. Who got like mad and it was scary. That's kind of like what I picture the hurdy-gurdy man being.
I'm glad you included this song though, because I figured Donovan would find his way into the playlist because of the title. But it also just reminds me how much I like Donovan, and I really should listen to more like album cuts, you know, because I've really only heard, you know, the singles, which are all great. Like every sort of hit he had, like you know, Mellow Yellow. Oh God, just so wonderful. But let's hear another.
In Germany, before the war, there was a man who owned a store. 1934, in Dusseldorf. And every night at 5:09, he'd cross the park down to the Rhine. He'd sit there by the shore. I'm looking at the river, but I'm thinking of the sea. I'm thinking of the sea. I'm looking at the river, but I'm thinking.
That was Randy Newman with "In Germany Before the War." In my opinion, this, without a doubt, the scariest Randy Newman song. It's about an elderly man watching his soon-to-be victim, a little girl, and he's a murderer. But it's never just specifically stated. It's just all through context and atmosphere and what the music literally does to you. Because there are these moments later on in the song that, you know, has these dissonant piano notes that are played alongside the orchestra, and it is so unsettling. It's just a very scary song. I think because he doesn't come right out and say, "This is a man who wants to kill a little girl." It's everything he doesn't say. It's she lies very still, like later on in the song, and so many he uses the melody to take out words very well. Like, so he'll say a line, he'll repeat a line twice, and when you think he's going to have that third time, he just lets the string section take that line, and it just fills in these spaces in such an eerie way. I love this song. It's one of my favorite Newman songs.
That was cool. I need you to make me a playlist of dark Randy Newman stuff.
Oh yeah, I would love to. Yeah,
because I like Sail Away. That's a dark, scary song, but I still don't have that much familiarity with Newman himself.
With serious Newman, I would love to make you that playlist, and I definitely will, because that is definitely a big corner of my interest for my musical taste is not simply Randy Newman, but like scary Randy Newman, and just the dark Newman. One last thing I'll say on this song before we move on to our last song of the evening is it often reminds me how much I do appreciate listening to vinyl, not for the sound quality, because I won't pretend to be some kind of audiophile that can really tell the difference. I don't have a sound system that makes a difference, but I do appreciate the tactile quality of sides being an actual factor in sequencing, and this song brings it up because it ends the first side of the album, Little Criminals, and that's an experience like no other. Like, if this is the first time you've heard the song, if it's on your record player and you're seated on the other side of the room and you're just absorbing it, and then that song ends and you just hear the click and it's done, just this, I don't know, this foreboding sense of everything is wrong. Just things are not good right now. Just to leave what is essentially a cliffhanger is just a wonderful move. And this was the song that made me appreciate that about albums, that they have that power. And before then, I hadn't really experienced that.
That's cool.
Proper sequencing. All right, so let's hear one more.
That's Manowar. I believe that song's called Kings of Metal, but I might be wrong. They have a lot of songs with very similar titles and a lot of very similar themes, which is that Manowar is loud and that they're so loud that they don't have wimps in their crowd. No. The Satanic Panic led to a lot of people losing their jobs, and it's a lot of very unpleasant things back in the 80s. People thought heavy metal was turning kids into killers and stuff. So I just wanted to pick the least harmful iteration of heavy metal that I've ever heard, which is that Manowar song where they say, "We don't attract wimps because we are too loud." It's just so, I don't know, it's just so innocent and so funny. And if you've ever seen photos of Manowar, they have like a Conan the Barbarian kind of look with like a lot of like leather, like leather cod pieces and harnesses and stuff like that. Not quite outright like gimp stuff, but definitely Conan the Barbarian influenced.
Now, how like in shape are these guys? Because my favorite thing are when they're skinny but dressed up like hunks. That is the funniest thing to me.
They're pretty skinny guys. Whenever they're painted, they're very muscular.
Okay. Yeah, like
from my recollection, not the most buff guys you've ever seen.
Oh, that's amazing. Like, imagine knowing what your body looks like and commissioning like a Boris Vallejo style, like oil painting of you with rippling muscles. Like, the level of delusion that must be fostered by writing those very songs. Like, that's why you would think that.
The fun thing about Manowar, though, is that they knew it was silly.
Oh,
and they were making it as fun as possible.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So they were like, I don't know. It's just like the most fun party metal.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not particularly heavy. The music isn't that good, but it's like, if you like Kiss and you want something even dumber than Kiss, Manowar is the group for you.
You want less pop hooks. Like
exactly.
You want the same energy of the weakest metal possible, but you don't want to be bogged down by melody.
It's just an army of denim jacketed Hesher weirdos just storming down the street.
Oh man. Well, a lot of times you'll contribute something to the playlist that I'll be like, oh, I gotta check more of that out. Not this time. I will not be listening to any more Manowar.
Oh yes, you will.
but I appreciate you including it in this playlist. That's our show this week, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next week. The big season finale of the October season of 6 O'Clock Dad Rock Talk. We're joined by guest Vinny Guidera of Vinny Guidera and the Dead Birds, as well as his new metal project, Wax in Hand. He's going to be coming on to talk all about the Misfits. Also, he will be in costume, so we ought to too. However you want to interpret that, we'll do some kind of costume. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be a lot, but he said he's going all out, so
what did he say? What
he
his
doesn't want to be an idiot.
Did he say what his
probably
costume
gonna be? He's probably gonna be like a misfit guy, maybe.
Yeah.
Because his band will usually do like a misfit thing. So I just got to show up like the badass I am. But it's gonna be a very fun show.
I'll be thinking.
Yeah. So join us next week for that. And as always, please follow us on Instagram. We're at 6 o'clock. We're at Dad Rock Talk. That is where you can find us. We've been posting some goodies on there with some cool vinyl finds and whatnot. Just keeping it real dad. But yeah, drop us a line on there. Any suggestions you might have for future shows. We'll listen. We might not do them, but we'll listen. We run out of ideas. It happens. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. One more time. Thank you, Corey. Court, 6 o'clock Dad Rock talking. Things had been going a little morose there for a little bit, and I figured the only way to bump it back up was a little Manowar. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Good call.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Got one more show tonight. It's the Stab Show. It's at 8 o'clock, so we're going to send you somewhere to enjoy some programming for a little bit, and then hope you come back at 8. Kim Martell, Kevin Scott Brown, and Melanie Ford, going to be lots of good funs. So let's find you a place to spend the hour. Who's doing stuff? Who? I don't know. Let's let's see if we can send you to Comedy Commons. I don't know if we've sent people over there yet. I keep finding more and more channels, so I'm going to keep trying to introduce people to more and more things. So here you go. Go see Comedy Commons, and we'll see you at 8 o'clock.
Here we are now, entertained.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a good one. I enjoyed a little more madcap one.
Yeah, nice to stretch our legs out without having to worry about a guest.
Yeah, there is also that. It's also easier in the sense that we don't have to make playlists, but I also feel, the hostly duties of, trying to take care of them. So it's nice not